You ready to film another exciting episode? Real good at doing stuff?
I can't wait.
Gotta be more exciting.
I can't wait.
Okay, good. There we go.
Alright, real good stuff doers. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We've got a tune-up job here to do on this Silverado. It's got one of our Beer Runner 5.3s in it. And I thought it'd be cool just to do a tuning video, kind of start from scratch and go through the day and see how things go. You never know what's going to happen on the dyno. There's usually something we got to fight with. But anyhow, I thought we'd do a video like that just so you can kind of see what happens on an average day at the dyno. This one's got some kind of startup tune in it. So the first thing I'm going to do is probably just kind of work on the idle a little bit and make sure everything's groovy in that department. While I'm thinking of it, like, share, subscribe, merch at HeraldEngine.com. All right, one of the first things I do, I hook up, I get my software open, and I download the existing tune, and then I save that. That way I can always go back to it. Customer can always go back to it, whatever. It may be total garbage, doesn't matter. I save it anyhow. And then I start by renaming the tune as whatever, something HED, and then that's our starting point. All right, now starting on the tune, first thing I'm gonna do is just go through and make sure everything is kind of ballpark set right. This thing runs, so that's a pretty good sign that at least some of it's right. So I'll just check all that, see how everything's set up, make sure the injector information is in the ballpark. Same with the ignition, all that. I'm going to look at the fuel table. In this case, for something that's just a startup tune, it actually looks pretty decent. So it doesn't look like, sometimes I have to kind of start from scratch and scrape all this out and start over. But in this case, looks usable. So we'll start with this, and then same with the spark. This looks like something I might have done in the past. Probably is, but the and also the target air fuel ratio. We'll make sure that's kind of in the ballpark, and we'll look at our closed loop stuff, see what's happening here. All right, we're at 50% everywhere. We'll start trimming this back throughout the day. Learn parameters are off. That's good. The only time I pretty much ever use learn is if I'm sending somebody a startup tune. Usually when I'm on the dyno, turning learn off is one of the first things I do. All right, now I'm live with the truck. I can look at my sensors. The sensors are what makes this thing work. So we got to make sure that they're kind of happy. Map pressure, 99, 98 kPa. That's pretty much perfect for a day like today. So that means our map sensor works. That's one of our most crucial sensors. The air temperature sensor works. Coolant temperature sensor works. And we'll check the rest of these. GPS is working. You know, all our critical stuff is here to party. So we'll start up and start working on it. All right, the idle is pretty decent. Not really having to change much there, but our IAC position is 20-25% at idle. We're up to temperature, so I want to get that a little bit closer to being closed, so it's not relying on that. That way we've got more room to swing when it does need it. So we're going to turn the throttle up a little bit and try to get the IAC closed a little more. All right, anytime you're playing with idle, you got to remember we need to do, where am I at? we need to do TPS auto set a lot every time you make a change, because that's how the computer knows that the engine is at idle, and the idle parameters will not be engaged if you don't do that. So anytime we make a slight idle or TPS change or anything like that, I do a TPS auto set. So just did a little cruising there to see how the drivability was. Not bad. I did start kind of pulling fuel out up here a little bit because it was pulling 15% or so. So I started leaning that back now. Generally under most of your driving conditions, it's not pulling much at all. I kind of like them to be pulling 2 or 3%, something like that. But anyhow, we've got that trimmed up now. So it's time to start working on the well, another thing I did before we get to this, I also pull it in gear with the brake locked to just make sure that the idle continues as it should when it's in gear. Sometimes that doesn't necessarily happen. You got to make changes to make sure it does. But in this case, it was fine. The IAC position probably picked up 5-10%, but that's normal, and all that did good. So now it's time to start doing some wide open throttle stuff. I am super conservative as far as how I run the dyno, and rarely ever tear anything up on the dyno. And one of the ways I do this is I make baby pulls to get started. Let's just go wide open, data log, make sure everything's cool, you know. So let's do that a little bit and take a look at that stuff. Also, being that this is a turbo truck, I'm going to go into our dome pressure target and turn that all to zeros. We just want to run on the gates right now. Supposedly these are like 6-pound springs, so it shouldn't make much boost. But we don't know that until we try it. So I zero everything out. We're just going to run on the springs. Sometimes I'll actually pull the vacuum reference or the pressure lines off to the domes to even reduce it even more. But in this case, I'm just going to make a little baby pull, see where things go, and we'll creep up from there. So first pull, I only turned at 3,700. We got a grand total of 1.3 pounds of boost. Fuel pressure looks good. Oil pressure looks good. That's because it's an HED motor. All our oil pressure always looks great. We're pulling about 5% of fuel, so I'll trim that up a little bit. But we're not making stupid boost when we shouldn't be. So everything looks cool to kind of start making further pulls. So now I'll do this again and I'll turn it a little more after making some adjustments. All right, so our first little pull turned at 5,000. Once we come on the cam, we start to add a little bit of fuel. So I'm gonna go in there and put some in those slots. That's pretty normal. Your motor becomes more efficient and it needs more fuel as the cam comes on. In this case, we got a big nasty beer runner camshaft in here, so you know it really needs some juice. We only got 1.3 pounds of boost still, which is kind of weird at 5,000 RPM. It's a big turbo, decent sized turbo, but that's still kind of weird. So I'm gonna have these guys look at the turbo system, see if wastegates or if we've got any leaks anywhere or anything going on. If we don't, we'll put some dome on it, see if that fixes it or not, but we need to at least investigate that. But other than that, everything looks super, so we'll kind of continue on from here. All right, we're going to test our dome pressure sensor. We'll put pressure, shot pressure on it, and it does come up. Do that again. All right, it comes up good like it should. All right, so now I know for sure our dome pressure is at least working. It may not be calibrated perfectly, but it looks like it is. So the next thing is we're going to figure out why we're not getting CO2 on our dome like we should be at this point. I've got a target of 10 and we got nothing happening. Boost fail solenoid says it's 100%, which it should be, but it's not working. So we're going to trace down some wires now. All right, so we're doing a little wiring chasing here, and it looks like for whatever reason our fill solenoid is not working. Our dump solenoid works fine. We're chasing wires. It just looks like it's not working, so we're going to take it out, take a look at it. Maybe we have to swap it out. All right, so evidently the solenoid was incorrectly assembled, and upon taking it apart, they found that some stuff was loose. They tightened it up, and now it works. So I guess Holly's going to have to address this at the next corporate board meeting and straighten some mess out. Somebody's 401k just got tanked because of that, shareholders dividends and whatnot. So now we're targeting 10. We got a solenoid that works. Let's see if, all right, we're halfway there. We're holding 10, but we're running a lot. So it sounds like we got a leak or something, but that's improvement. At least we got something. So now we'll check the rest of it out. All right, so that was a pull with 10 pounds of dome. It made 5 pounds of boost at 5,000 or so. Fuel's close. I'm gonna trim a little bit up top. Oil pressure's good. Everything looks good. It's holding dome. I built a boost table here you can look at, and the dome pressure's holding steady. So that part of the equation is figured out. I don't exactly know why the boost is so low. It almost looks like there's a leak somewhere, or a gate's not sealing or something, but it's taking forever to make boost and it doesn't make much when it does. So we'll probably have to track that down. I may add some dome, probably turn it some more. We're good to start making pulls, and everything seems to be safe fuel pressure wise and fuel injector wise, so we're in the safe zone. All right, so if you guys can't find any obvious problems in the turbo system, it may be that this turbo is just way out of whack size wise for this motor. Apparently it's a 91 with a big backside, and a little motor like this, that may not be the best way to go. So we're going to double the dome, just see what it does. All right, so we don't know exactly what's going on, but I can add dome and I get more. So for now, we're just going to keep going in that direction. If they want to change turbo or something later on, they can, or change backside or whatever they got to do. But that netted us 9.2 pounds of boost or so. It kind of maintained in there. And the fuel was real close. It's adding 2%. I had just a little bit to the table. Everything else is looking good. Timing is really low, super safe. We may turn it up a little bit more. At some point we're going to switch over to E, but for right now that made 476, anyhow we'll probably turn it up from here and see what happens next. All right, so With 25 on the dome, we're making 11.5, 12, somewhere in there. It's holding that. That made 550 or so at the tire. We're still on pump gas. I think these guys' plan is to mostly run this thing with a lot of boost in it on E. So we're going to stop for a minute, swap out to E. This tune here is super safe, hardly correcting at all. Timing's really safe. It's a pump gas drive around tune, and it'll never tear anything up like this. But they're going to swap it to E, and then we'll continue on. All right, so that was our first pull on E. We picked up about 30 horsepower at the tire with basically no real tuning changes. Everything's more or less the same, other than the switch to E85. And there's some tuning changes I have to make to do that, but I didn't add any timing or anything like that. Now we probably are making another pound or so of boost. I would say that's probably because of the more energetic nature of the fuel itself. So we probably gained a little bit from the fuel and a little bit from just switching to E. But I'm gonna make some subtle fuel changes in the E tables I've got set up here. This isn't gonna be an E tuning video, but I'm not gonna mess with the main fuel map now because the main fuel map was fine before. I just want to change what we're doing on E. But we're very close. Everything looks good. We'll probably just turn it up from here and try to make some more power. All right, that gave us another 60 or so. We got like 17 pounds. Probably didn't get the power that we're exactly looking for because the timing kind of fell out. So the timer's in the basement. I'm going to bring it up now, hit the rev limiter up top. I'm going to move it out of the way. The fuel is actually really close. It's adding a little bit there, but I bet when I add the timing, that'll fix itself. Our flex fuel sensor's dropping. It's kind of like got a bad connection or something. So we're trying to chase that down. But other than that, everything looks good. And we're gonna just add some time into it and probably pull it again, maybe turn some boost up. All right, so that made, let's see, 19.5 pounds of boost. We're up 725 or so at the tires. We're adding a little bit of fuel right here, but the fuel pressure starting to look sketchy up here. I'm thinking that we might be at the end of the pump. So I'm gonna turn the boost up a little bit more and just see what happens there. We got plenty of duty cycle, but duty cycle is not a good way to fix that. So we're going to see what happens when we turn the boost up a little more and go from there, I guess. I can lean it, but I don't want to do that. I'd rather run more fuel through this thing. So we may have to address a fuel system issue at some point. But let's turn it up a little more and see what the pressure is. All right, so there's another pound or two of boost. We're at 763 now. The fuel pressure thing up top looks the same. So it's real jagged in here. This should be at least 10 pounds higher than it is. But the duty cycle's not going bananas yet. It's kind of hanging out there, so I'm going to add some more and just see if it'll go. At some point, I'm going to kind of pull the plug on things because it's not the way to do, to do this. But we're not completely losing the injector yet. We're only at 47, 48% duty cycle. So I'm going to give it a little more and see if it'll respond. But so far so good. It seems to like it once the turbo starts to come on. They're going to change the housing and backside of this turbo as soon as they can get one, and that should help fill in the bottom. This thing's just way oversized for this cubic inch of motor. But anyhow, let's turn her up a little more and see what goes down. All right, so that's got us up at 835 or so. So we picked up quite a bit there. I leaned it a little bit and add a boost. Fuel looks really close. I'm not going to change much there. Our fuel pressure is definitely kind of at the end. So it's not any smart to turn this thing up any at all after this. So we're going to kind of cool it for now until we can upgrade the fuel system. It's going to change the backside of the turbo, a few other things. But all in one piece, tons of oil pressure, and it'll crank up and drive off of here. So that's a good deal. Like, share, subscribe. I know you people are already subscribed at this point, but in case any of you people are still hiding out in here, make sure you check that box. And that's all for now.
Can you